Johari atau persembahan yang sungguh menarik dan very informatif tadi. Kita pergi selanjutnya kepada pembinaan kertas kelima yang bertajuk Optimizing Analytics in Security Using Geospatial Data Technology. Kertas ini akan dibentangkan oleh Encik Azhar bin Abu Talib dari MIMOS Berhad, dipersilakan. Sementara itu saya bacakan biodata beliau, CV. Encik Azhar is a software director at MIMOS Berhad, with year after years success achieving business growth and innovation objectives within a volatile economic environment and complex Malaysian software industry landscape. He has extensive experience with building complex systems which require deep understanding of data relationship for model approximation, highly successful in building relationship with upper-level decision makers, seizing control of critical problems areas, and delivering on customer commitments, customer focus and performance driven. Also led a motivated team comprised of more than 30 employees. Please, Mr.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So my name is Azhar bin Abu Talib. I'm from MIMOS. So the talk will be about basically MIMOS, just to share a little bit what MIMOS is all about. MIMOS is actually a R&D center. We are an agency previously under MOSTI. I think we will have a new mother later. But the idea is about the talk is what I will share is how do we use GIS in trying to solve some of the problems that our customer had. So basically, it's not really about MIMOS per se. It's really about the challenges that we face and how do we tackle some of it using GIS technology, especially, not really all of it. So about MIMOS, just a little bit side note, for those who actually don't know about MIMOS, somehow it's not appearing on the screen. Okay, now it's there. So basically, since we are an R&D center, if you don't know about it, there are two labs inside MIMOS. One is basically where I come in, it's called the ICT labs. That's where all the software development is, where it is. And then the second one is actually the advanced E&E lab. That's where the physical research is. All the electronic stuff and all that is actually there. They do a lot of IoT stuff and all that. So the sectors that we are in, the R&D areas that we are in is actually listed above. Cloud computing, big data, artificial intelligence, blockchain, IoT, cybersecurity, augmented reality, and additive manufacturing. This is some of it a bit. So basically, we have close to 800 researchers. One of our staff recently, I think it's this year, is Dr. Hafizal, actually has been announced as the ASEAN Outstanding Scientist and Technologist in 2017. Recently, it's awarded last year, but the event is actually, I think, early this year. So we have actually close to 1,000 plus IPs, and we actually developed close to 80 plus high impact projects. This is during our existence. So the talk will be simple, right? So my agenda is actually, first of all, how do I look at security per se, not just the normal norms what security is, and MIMOS involvement in that area, and how do we use especially GIS analytics for that purpose. So while the agenda is actually only 2, but the slide is close to 50, so I have to catch up a little bit. So what is security? Normally people think about, it's about enforcement. You know, you got police officers, immigrations, you got the maritime officers and all that. Sometimes related about your health, your safety and health and all that, emergencies. You talk about the cyber world, people talk about cybersecurity and all that stuff. But the one that we will also cover a little bit about, it's not moving forward, sorry. Civilian security. Civilian security involves your job security. You know what I'm saying? Whether there's enough jobs for you. The other one is food security. Food security, this one is slightly different. You're not talking about cukup ke beras yang ada dalam Malaysia ni. It's about what you guys been talking all about, which is price, right? As simple as price. The government actually decided to zero-rise GST. but people complain why is the price not going down. So this is some work, but not related to the latest one, to the previous one, when introduction of the GST itself, environmental security, property security, harga rumah mahal, and all that, transport security. You know what I'm saying, especially if you have to cover a certain distance for emergency cases, can I actually arrive at that point during the time that I needed, especially for emergency cases. So I'll share a little bit, not all, some of it. So I'll start with the enforcement agency, some of the works that we have done together with them. Not all, because there's a lot of works that have been done with them throughout the years, is some of it. So one of the challenges that we had in one of the problems that this is among the earlier problems that we had with PDRM, is in one of the scenarios where the current IGP was heading one of the units, I think it's called the Jabatan Pengurusan. Tan Sri Fuzi was heading Jabatan Pengurusan. At that time, the government actually do not, because they want to maintain the balance of the numbers of people, so hiring is not that easy, right? So this is a couple of years back. So then the challenge is right now, how can we actually see from their data set what is available and whether the forces is able to cope with the amount of work that are given to them. So we took the data set actually from the Hermes system. As you all know, I think the civil servant has their own Hermes system. I think PDRM has their own Hermes system also as well. So then we actually map with some of the other data sets relating about crimes and also their workload. And then from there, what we wanted to establish is somehow a measurement that says whether or not it's possible with the current workforce that they had currently at that point of time to handle. So this is an example of it. This is a number. This is not a map of crime. This is not a map of crime. This is actually a map of whether the resources that is available to PDRM at that point of time are able to cope with the amount of work that is given to them. Because amount of work is basically not just need, because the more crimes need, the more work you need. You have to investigate, you have to open your IO papers and all that. And it's not just that, you have to do patrolling for the other officers and all that stuff. So this is an example of a map. This map actually represents, the green color tells actually you have people and you have extra a little bit more people in that particular area. The green one, the yellow one means it's just nice, but you are at the critical point. The red means that those people over there simply cannot handle whatever given to them. So that's the idea. Then from there, we build a modeler, right, based on the crime, the ACTA, and all that stuff. Then you can actually have an estimate, roughly. You can actually drag and drop this, and then estimate, increase certain numbers of workforces in particular area, then what happened to them. This is an estimate, right? This is a model that we built together with them and all that. This is one scenario that how we use GIS in one of our customers. I have to go quickly. This is another one. People always think GIS is always about map, right? This is actually almost like a map, but it's a model of a building. So for those who don't know about this building, this is actually the detention center in apa tu? Yang dekat kan? Apa nama? Jinjang. So this is kalau you masuk lockup kan pergi sini lah. So but anyway, just to share a little bit, Jinjang, lockup Jinjang, lockup Jinjang. So this one is a little bit sensitive. I depend in because we made a mistake. So what happened was recently during bulan puasa period we had because we had some work in MINDEF. It's just that during that particular period, the person who was chairing the meeting was the new minister, YB Muhammad Sabu. So then we showed the Jinjang ni, and then he says, this one look familiar lah. Ni I macam tahu tempat ni. I rasa I selalu kunjung tempat ni. So it can become very sensitive depending on who you show. So but anyway, so what happened is we have a work. So what we did with this is we built a model of the building, right? And what happened is inside lockup Jinjang there are sensors, which is CCTVs and all that. So then the CCTVs is actually when it detects certain alerts, then it will show inside the model. So I give you certain alerts that can be shown inside the model. Is say, for example, you got inmates that are actually having aggressive behaviors. That's one of them. You got inmates who's actually climbing. Climbing is a problem also. Last time, if you climbing, you can actually ada separuh tu kemungkinan using their their clothing to actually hang themselves and all that stuff. So those are alerts lah. So tampering of the knee also, say for example, they got inmates who's actually trying to pull out certain accessories that cameras and all that inside the knee. And then some of it is actually tampering it because they don't want people to, all these are events lah. So we work together with them to identify the events and all that, put it inside the model. When it triggers the alert, then it will appear inside the model, and for people to actually try to actually, for the officers, the wardens and all that, to actually then monitor and then go attend that particular event. This is an example how the complex event is actually being analyzed and all that through a system. But this one, I just want to go quickly. I have 10 minutes more. I hope I can cover all, especially. This is another work. This is an example data set that we work with another client that needs. So if you seen this one before, this one belongs to the Maritime Agency. So the red areas is actually basically, they call it daerah maritim lah, the maritime boundaries and all that belonging to Malaysia. So this is just point. This is basically crimes happening around the seas and all that. But for us, we want to actually analyze all this. So what we wanted to do is we started actually start drawing what we call a centroid, which is the center point of all the crimes inside the maritime boundaries. So the red dots, if you see the red dots, right? I'm not sure whether you can see the red dots. Let me go to the next one. So I circle it out. So the red dots is actually the center of the crimes. This is for 2013, right? So the idea is we pick one. Let's assume that's one boundary, right? I pick one boundary here. You have the red dots, right? Somehow this one, the sizing is different. It's supposed to be here, the center, but anyway, it doesn't matter. It's supposed to be on the red dot, that circle there, highlighting, but it's I think my presentation slide and the knee is actually expanded, so it runs away from the circle. So the idea is we are actually monitoring the centroid. So you can see from 2013, right? 2013 is here, the top one, right? And then you can see the next one is actually moving down. So that the idea is you want to see the movement. You see? Forget about the knee. You just worry about the red dots because the circle is not in line with the red dots. So you want to see the movement of the centroid, which means the movement of where the basis of the crime is. Because if you look just points, it's hard to identify. But if you look at the center points of all the points that is happening, then you roughly have a feel of where the clusters of the crime is actually moving. This is one of the things that we actually working with them. This is for 2014 and 15. So it's actually moving down a little bit, closer to the shore, what it means is. So this is one of the things that we are doing together with them. We did a heat map. You all guys know about this. This is another thing that we did. We wanted to understand whether there's a tendency between certain crimes with the forces of nature. So if you can see, you can actually select what the forces of nature is: temperature, tidal, humidity, visibility, and all that stuff, wind speed. So the idea is for us to understand whether there's certain correlation within the boundaries of the region and the forces of nature. So which means whether certain forces of nature determines whether the likelihood of certain crimes happening in that particular region. So this is what happened. This is in terms of correlation with temperature, right? Red means it's negatively correlated. As the temperature drops, the crime goes up. Blue means it's positive. As temperature goes up, crime goes up. So the dark colors mean the darker, the better the correlation. So if you can see Kelang right there, right, at the center of the map there, yang kat sebelah sini. So you can see it's very dark blue. So dark blue means positively correlated, which means that Kelang might have a chance that the crime might have something to do with temperature. Why? We don't know. That's what the data tells us. So these are the things that we work together with them, then they explore the possibility, why is it happening, and all that stuff. This is tidal wave. You can see this is about tidal wave. You got humidity, you got visibility, and all that. So let me talk about a little bit about civilian security, right? I'll talk about transport. This is actually from another client. when we first actually being engaged by this particular client, they wanted to know traffic. It's just traffic, traffic movement and all that stuff. So we started collecting data. I mean, the hard part of particular traffic, when people say about traffic, there's no central agency in Malaysia that really says, I have the data for traffic. There's none. So what we did is, okay, since nobody have it, let's see whether the world have it. So in this case, we have started mining it from Waze. Waze have traffic info since 1.5 years back. This data set is actually 1.5 years back. So when we started collecting data, when we see traffic as a 1-year history and all that, trying to see where traffic movement is and all about, we come to realize that for the particular client, traffic is just a data. So what we need is more information. And that particular information, we have to drill down a little bit. Waze does not give you directly that particular information. So what we did is actually, if you look at on the other side, right, is actually the source and origin, basically it's an origin of the road, the movement of the traffic, and where, if they are actually on that particular road, where are they heading? Which road are they heading? So it gives you an idea as a planner, in this case, I'm in Jalan Tun Razak. If I'm in Jalan Tun Razak, what's my lucky? What's the major percentage of the traffic in Jalan Tun Razak? Which road are they heading next? This is for the planners, because why they are actually coming from the planners, then it helps them to have a view of whether or not I want to expand the road. I want to actually build another ramp. So those kind of things, I want to do a counterflow, those kind of stuff. 5 more minutes. Okay, I realized, let me go quickly. So then since we had the data, then the team started playing around. Can we predict at major roads and all that stuff? The next 3 hours of data, that's what the work that we currently doing. That's the predicting model and all that. That's the time, one of the time data sets in KVE you can see. And then the other line is the solid line is the actual data. The dotted line is the predicted data and all that stuff. And then we also, actually, this is an interesting data set. You can see the impact. This is actually what DBKL did is in Jalan Tun Razak. There's a, if I'm not mistaken, going to Jalan Eaton. They did an exercise where they close going left to Jalan Eaton. So you can see the impact, whether, we also don't know about this, but once we talk to them and all that, we start, because we are collecting data since quite some time. You can see the impact on the traffic itself. So the bar there on this side tells you the length of the traffic and all that. So it's actually going down a little bit. So you can see whether your counterflow works. You can see whether certain simulations that you have done, you tutup jalan and all that, whether it actually have an impact on the traffic. So this is one of the stuff that we're doing. This is another example. So this is another work that we did with Pengerang, so that to understand flows of counting the vehicles and all that. How many types of vehicle, what type of vehicle and all that. This is because they want to do expansion on the road going to Pengerang. This is another work of employment security. Gives you an idea of where the jobs are, the rate where the jobs seekers is. The blue is the opportunity, which is the vacancies. It breaks down to the state. You can actually drill down even up to the detail of whether they have the skills and all that stuff. This is actually another work that we did. This is actually for the jobs also. This is for Johor. Give you an example of Johor punya need slightly later on, because we have a sample live for that purpose. This is for property. We took this data. We actually took this data. One is the transacted property price from an agency. The other one is the listing price when you go to iProperty and all that stuff. That one is not transacted. So they understand the trend movement of, this is in Selangor itself. Selangor I visit, they are worrying because certain prices in property in Selangor keep going up and all that stuff. So that it's hard for people to actually buy a house in those particular areas and all that stuff. So these are the trends. This is the last portion would be GST. We also did a GST monitoring previously. This is actually, for me, is still not complete work because the collection of the data point is actually at the retail side. So we don't actually really know for sure the data, whether it's hiking at the retail side or is hiking actually on the producing side, manufacturing side. So when we talk to the client, we want to have more richer data set, then we can separate those two. Who's actually hiking? The manufacturing guys, the wholesalers, the retails, but we don't have. But in terms of that alone, you can see, I don't have the map here, you can see the variation, even say like Putrajaya and Dengkel, you see the prices different in Putrajaya and Dengkel, even though Putrajaya and Dengkel are right next to each other. So those are the things that we did. This is how we actually do it. Some of the data set is huge. So we use a lot of big data stuff here. This is actually some the works that we have done. We use a lot of Spark and also Hadoop and all, 50 seconds and all that. This is basically in the details portion. We're using some learning for the prediction and all that stuff also. So basically I'm over, but I'm going to show you a little bit of the live portion part of it. So this is a work that we did with Johor, right? So this is part of their initiative. It's actually part of theirs and also IRDA initiative and all that stuff. So you can see job trends in Johor. You can see which traffic is actually need. So which movement of traffic in actual need. This is a whole gamut of series of data sets. So in the case of one of the examples you can see over there, if you're in Laboraya Pasir Gudang, where are they heading and all that. Those are actually real data sets. You have property listings, 2 seconds. You have prices, air quality. Basically, what they wanted to do is actually have the basically, how do I measure the health of a city or the health of a state? So these are some of the data set that we have actually worked with them so that they have a benchmark where to move forward. So with that, I thank you for the audience and all that, and I open it. Is any of you all actually want to have a visit to MIMOS or want to have a collaboration? Because basically, without you, the customers, we are actually nothing because the problem comes from you. Does not come from MIMOS. Thank you.